So if we're going to talk about evolution, I guess the question is from navigation to robotics, is that evolution forwards, backwards, or sideways? Van will, from Wilmington, North Carolina, will give us that education next.
Good morning. I'm Van Huffmon. I'm a neurosurgeon in Wilmington, North Carolina, and as a disclosure, Alex Thomas is my partner. Sorry. These are my disclosures. So since October 2017, we've done 40 single-position lateral robotic cases using the Mazor X. We've done 40 lateral robotic cases using the Mazor X. 33 were successful, 7 we had failed registration and had to flip prone. Since our software upgrade to the Mazor X, we've had a 100% success rate with 12 cases, and these are all 1 and 2 level lumbar fusions, L2 to S1. So why use the robot, and why use it in a single position? Well, you want to avoid flipping the patient prone. You're going to save about 45 minutes in my hospital. You're also going to save in materials cost. You're going to save with draping, you're going to save with a second Bovie, suctions, all those things. And the reason that I like stereotactic navigation is for its accuracy. I think that the accuracy in the early papers with Mazor were up to 99%. There is a 50% reduction in fluoroscopy and use about 1.3 seconds of fluoroscopy per screw. The way that I do this is I check all of my drill guides before I drill, and if the drill guide is okay, then I don't use any other fluoro. So this is real time. So this just shows the single position robotic surgery. We've got the robot mounted, the patient's on the table. We've already, in this workflow, we completed the lateral surgery first, and then I did the robotic screws. I do it from a seated position for a couple of reasons. One, I'm really tall, and so it's difficult for me to get the bed up that high. And number two, I'm fat and lazy. So the way we do this is, everybody here I think knows to position the patient laterally. I use the Jackson spine table because right now that's what our robot, the Mazor X, hooks to. I try to do the same thing for any single position surgery, get the lordotic curve about an inch from the edge of the bed, and that has to do with your downside screws. So once we attach the robot to the bed, you drape the robot, you put in your PSIS pin, and you want to get it close to midline but out of the way of your S1 and L5 screws. For then the robot does a 3D scan of the area, and one of the tips is make sure you tuck the blue towel underneath the patient so that there's not a big false area that the robot can't go to, because what it's doing is it's creating its work volume, and you want that work volume to be as close to the patient as you can. The next step is to register the robot. So then you navigate. So the way that I do it is I start on the superior trajectory screw at the side closest to the bed. And the reason I do that is because those are the toughest for reachability. So if you go ahead and get those screws in, you know that all the rest are going to get in without a problem. I place the downside K-wires first, and then I go to the upside trajectories. I then tap and place all the screws, and then the best workflow is to then perform the interbody surgery. You can come back and pass the rods, and then if you want to do a posterior lateral fusion, you can. So 33 of the 40 cases we completed in a lateral position. The failures were due to registration errors before the software upgrade. The biggest learning curve for this outside of robotics is getting it registered. And that was the hardest thing, and there were some cases that it added an hour or more to our case. There are still stories around the hospital of how my using the robot just was just tremendously time wasting. But we've gotten it down now that I think we're almost as efficient as Alex is. And so, not everybody is as good at putting pedicle screws in without any sort of navigation or robotics in the lateral position as some of you are. And so what I think this does is it really adds to that, and it makes a good surgeon a great surgeon. So we had one medial pedicle screw breach and 2 lateral pedicle screw breaches, and I agree that I think that it's the drill guide popping off the facet laterally that causes that. And marrying the navigation to the robot is going to help with that. I had 2 lateral pedicle screw placements intraoperatively that I identified once the screw was in place when I was passing the rod, and I felt it was due to the K-wire pulling back and the screw going laterally. They were both put new trajectories in, and I repositioned them intraoperatively, and there was no problem. So, lessons and tips. The most efficient workflow for using the robot in the lateral position is to put your screws in first. And one of the reasons, even though the registration technology off of the fluoro is absolutely fantastic, and with the new upgrade, it's just amazing. We went from a frustrating 15 to 20 minutes at best to 3 to 5 minutes at most now. And so if you can register once you've got the interbody in, but it's much quicker and easier and more efficient to go ahead and get the screws in before your interbody. Next is the plan for reachability issues. Your bottom superior screw is going to usually be the worst, although sometimes L5 can be tricky if the robot's folding back up on itself. And so you want to plan for that with placing your PSIS pin. You want to get it a little more medial, but make sure it's angled back out of the way of your 5 and 1 screws. Sometimes we have had to replan intraoperatively the downside screw, and you can see here on this CT scan I had to flatten out the trajectory on the right screw. So this is us being a little more efficient. And we've got it now that the access surgeon and I can work together. We're not perfect, but we're working on it. Thank you.